Hello, beautiful learners, and welcome back to the Fluent Storybook. I'm here with you today because I believe you deserve better than what traditional English learning has given you. My name is Sarah, and for the past decade, I've been helping thousands of students discover the secret that language schools don't want you to know. Today, I'm going to share with you a completely different way to learn English. Not through boring grammar rules. Not through endless vocabulary lists, not through memorizing phrases you'll never use, but through something far more powerful, the magic of stories and emotional connection. By the end of this lesson, you'll understand why everything you've been told about language learning is wrong. And more importantly, you'll have a clear roadmap to fluency that actually works. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why children learn languages so effortlessly? A 3-year-old doesn't study grammar. They don't memorize vocabulary lists. They don't take tests. Yet they master their native language faster than any adult student ever could. What if I told you that there's a way to tap into that same natural learning process? What if I told you that fluency isn't about studying harder, but about learning smarter? Today, I'm going to reveal the 3 fundamental principles that will transform your English learning forever. These aren't theories. These are proven methods that have helped my students go from frustrated beginners to confident speakers in months, not years. But first, let's talk about why traditional methods fail. Right now, millions of English learners around the world are stuck in the same frustrating cycle. They study grammar rules for hours. They memorize hundreds of new words. They complete countless exercises. Yet when they try to speak, they freeze. Sound familiar? Here's what typically happens. You spend months learning the past perfect tense. You know exactly when to use had been versus had done. But when someone asks you about your weekend, you panic. Your mind goes blank. All those grammar rules jumble together, and you end up saying nothing at all. Or maybe you've memorized 3,000 vocabulary words using flashcards. You can recognize them when reading, but in conversation you can't access them quickly enough. They're stored in your passive memory, not your active speaking memory. This is the textbook trap. Traditional methods teach you about English, but they don't teach you to use English. They fill your head with rules and lists, but they don't train your mouth to speak or your ears to understand natural conversation. The result? After years of study, you still don't feel fluent. You still translate in your head. You still struggle to express your thoughts clearly. You still feel nervous when speaking with native speakers. And the worst part? You start to believe it's your fault. You think you're not smart enough. You think you don't have a language gene. You think fluency is only for other people. But that's not true. The problem isn't you. The problem is the method. Here's what I discovered after years of research and working with thousands of students. The human brain doesn't learn languages through rules and memorization. It learns through stories, emotions, and meaningful connections. Think about it. How did you learn your native language? Through stories your parents told you, through songs and nursery rhymes, through experiencing life and describing what happened to you. Your brain connected language to experiences, to feelings, to real-life situations. This is called contextual learning, and it's the most powerful way to acquire any language. When you learn words and phrases through stories, they stick. When you experience language emotionally, you remember it forever. Let me give you a simple example. Which do you think you'll remember better? Option A. The word serendipity means a pleasant surprise or fortunate accident. Option B, Maria was heartbroken after her breakup. She decided to take a solo trip to Paris to heal. On her first morning there, she got lost trying to find a cafe. Frustrated and close to tears, she sat down on a bench. That's when she met Jean, a kind artist who offered to help. One conversation led to another, and by the end of her trip, they had fallen in love. Years later, they would call their meeting serendipity, a beautiful, unexpected discovery that changed everything. I guarantee you'll remember Maria's story. More importantly, you'll remember how serendipity feels, not just what it means. And when you can feel a language, you can speak it fluently. The 3 core principles. This brings us to the 3 core principles of the Fluent Storybook method. Principle number 1, learn through stories. Not rules every grammar rule, every vocabulary word. Every phrase should be learned within the context of a story. Stories give language meaning. They help your brain create neural pathways that connect words to experiences, not just definitions. When you learn the present perfect tense through a story about someone's life journey, you understand not just how to form it, but when it feels natural to use it. When you learn vocabulary through character adventures, those words become part of your emotional memory. Principle number 2. Engage your emotions, not just your logic. Emotional learning is permanent learning. When you feel something while learning, your brain pays attention. It says, "This is important. Remember this." That's why you can sing along to songs you learned years ago, but you forget grammar rules you studied last week. The songs touched your emotions. The grammar rules only touched your analytical mind. In the Fluent Storybook method, every lesson is designed to make you feel something. Whether it's excitement, curiosity, empathy, or joy, emotional engagement accelerates learning by up to 300%. Principle number 3, practice speaking. From day 1, but naturally, most methods make you wait. They say first learn grammar, then vocabulary, then maybe you can try speaking. This is backwards. Children start speaking from day 1, making mistakes and improving gradually. But traditional speaking practice feels artificial. Repeating random sentences or having forced conversations about topics you don't care about doesn't build real fluency. Instead, we use story-based speaking practice. You retell stories. You answer questions about characters' motivations. You predict what happens next. This gives you something meaningful to say, which makes speaking feel natural and purposeful. Now let me show you exactly how this works. Let's take a common English learning goal, mastering past tenses. The traditional approach would be learn the rule for simple past, add, ed, learn irregular past forms, go, went, see, saw, complete fill-in-the-blank exercises, take a test. The Fluent Storybook approach is completely different. Story-based past tense learning. Every morning, Lisa walks to the coffee shop on Main Street. She orders the same thing, a large latte with extra foam. The barista Tom always smiles when he sees her coming, but yesterday was different. Lisa walked to the coffee shop as usual, but when she arrived, it was closed. A sign on the door said, "Family emergency, closed today." She felt disappointed and confused. She had never seen the shop closed before. Lisa walked around the block looking for another cafe. She found a small place she had never noticed. She went inside and ordered her usual latte. The coffee was even better than her regular place. She met the owner, an elderly Italian woman who told fascinating stories about her homeland. Later that evening, Lisa realized something. If her usual coffee shop hadn't been closed, she would never have discovered this hidden gem. Sometimes unexpected changes lead to wonderful discoveries. After reading this story, students naturally understand when to use simple past. Yesterday was different. She walked, she found. When to use past continuous, she was walking, had been closed. When to use past perfect, she had never seen, hadn't been closed. The emotional context that makes each tense feel natural, but we don't stop at reading. We make it interactive. Speaking practice. Tell me about a time when something unexpected happened to you. What do you think Lisa will do tomorrow? Have you ever discovered something new by accident? Vocabulary expansion. Through this one story, students naturally learn disappointed, confused, fascinating, homeland, hidden gem, unexpected, discovery, all in meaningful context. Grammar, understanding. They see how past tenses work together in real communication, not as isolated rules to memorize. Why does this work so much better than traditional methods? The answer lies in how your brain actually processes language. When you learn through stories, you activate multiple areas of your brain simultaneously. The language processing centers, Broca's and Wernicke's areas, the emotional processing center, limbic system, the visual processing center, occipital lobe, the memory formation center, hippocampus. This is called whole brain learning, and it creates much stronger, more durable memories than single-channel learning methods. Additionally, stories activate what neuroscientists call mirror neurons. These are brain cells that fire both when you perform an action and when you observe someone else performing that action. When you read about Lisa walking to the coffee shop, your mirror neurons fire as if you were walking. This creates a deeper, more embodied understanding of the language. Now I know what some of you might be thinking. This sounds too good to be true. Where's the hard work? The hard work is still there, but it doesn't feel hard because you're engaged. When you're emotionally invested in a story, studying doesn't feel like studying. It feels like entertainment. But your brain is still doing all the complex work of language acquisition. What about grammar? Don't I need to study rules? You absolutely need to understand grammar, but you need to understand it intuitively, the way native speakers do. Native speakers don't think about grammar rules when they speak. They feel what sounds right. Story-based learning helps you develop that same intuitive feel. How can I be sure this will work for me? Because it works the way your brain naturally acquires language. Every human brain is wired for story-based learning. It's not a special skill some people have and others don't. It's how we're all designed to learn. Let me give you a step-by-step guide to implement this in your daily learning. Step 1. Choose your story level. Start with stories that are slightly above your current level. You should understand about 80% without a dictionary. If you understand 100%, it's too easy. If you understand less than 70%, it's too difficult. Step 2. The 3-pass method. First pass. emotional engagement. Read or listen to the story for pure enjoyment. Don't stop to look up words. Don't analyze grammar. Just experience the story. Ask yourself, how did it make you feel? What happened? Why do you care about the characters? Second pass, language awareness. Go through the story again, but this time, notice the language. Which phrases are new to you? How are different tenses used? What vocabulary stands out? Don't memorize anything yet. Just become aware. Third pass, active learning. Now dive deeper. Look up key vocabulary, but write the definitions in the context of the story. For example, instead of writing serendipity thog fortunate accident, write serendipity thog what Maria experienced when she met John in Paris, a beautiful, unexpected discovery. Step 3. Make it personal. Connect the story to your own life. Have you ever experienced something similar? How would you react in the character's situation? What would you do differently? This personal connection makes the language stick. Step 4. Retell and discuss. Practice retelling the story in your own words. Start with simple summaries, then add more detail. If possible, discuss the story with other learners or native speakers. Ask questions like, what do you think about the character's decision? Have you ever been in a similar situation? What do you predict will happen next? Step 5. Create your own version. This is the most powerful step. Take the story structure and language patterns, but create your own version. Change the characters, setting, or situation. This forces you to actively use the new language in a creative way. For listening comprehension, use audio stories with accompanying text. Listen first without reading, then listen while reading, then listen again without text. This trains your ears to recognize natural speech patterns and pronunciation for speaking fluency. Practice story retelling with increasing complexity. Week 1. Retell in simple. Sentences week 2, add more descriptive details week 3. Include your opinions and reactions week 4. Create alternative endings or sequels for reading comprehension. Use the prediction technique. Pause at key moments and predict what will happen next. This keeps you actively engaged and helps you understand narrative structure in English. For writing skills, start by copying the style of stories you enjoy. Notice how authors transition between ideas, build suspense, or describe emotions. Then apply these techniques in your own writing. For vocabulary building, create vocabulary families from stories. Instead of learning isolated words, group related words from the same story context. For example, from a story about cooking, ingredients, recipe, stir, simmer, taste, delicious, burnt kitchen, chef. Once you've mastered basic story-based learning, you can use more sophisticated techniques. Character analysis. Deep dive into character motivations, conflicts, and development. This naturally introduces complex vocabulary for describing personality, emotions, and human behavior. Theme exploration. Discuss universal themes like love, friendship, ambition, or justice. This builds your ability to express abstract concepts and personal philosophies. Cultural context. Use stories to explore different cultures and perspectives. This not only improves language skills, but also cultural fluency, understanding not just what to say, but when and how to say it appropriately. Genre variety. Experiment with different story types. mystery stories for logical thinking vocabulary, romance for emotional expression, science fiction for hypothetical language, historical fiction for past tenses and descriptive language. How do you know if this method is working? Here are key indicators. Week 2-3. You start thinking about characters from stories. You've read new vocabulary begins appearing in your own speaking and writing. You feel more motivated. To engage with English content, month 1, you can retell. Stories with increasing detail and personal commentary, you begin noticing language patterns. Without conscious effort, your fear of making mistakes decreases. Month 2, tier 3, you start dreaming in English. Occasionally, you can discuss complex topics using language learned from stories. Native speakers comment that your English sounds more natural. Month 6, you think directly in English for many topics. You can create original stories and express complex ideas. Fluently English feels like a natural part of your identity, not a foreign skill mistake. For one, choosing stories that are too difficult. If you're constantly stopping to look up words, you're not experiencing the story. You're doing vocabulary translation exercises. Start easier than you think you need to. Mistake number 2, focusing on perfect understanding. You don't need to understand every word to benefit from a story. Native speakers don't understand every word they hear either. Focus on the overall meaning and emotional experience. Mistake number 3, passive consumption. Reading or listening without active engagement won't build fluency. Always ask yourself questions, make predictions, and connect stories to your own experiences. Mistake number 4, avoiding speaking practice. Stories give you something meaningful to talk about, but you still need to practice speaking. Use story discussion as your primary speaking practice method. Mistake number 5, expecting immediate results. Language acquisition takes time, even with the best methods. Trust the process and focus on consistent daily practice rather than dramatic short-term progress. In today's digital age, you have unprecedented access to story-based learning resources. Podcasts. Choose narrative podcasts slightly above your level. True crime, personal stories, and serialized fiction work particularly well. Audiobooks. Start with young adult novels or simplified classics. The combination of professional narration and engaging plots accelerates learning. Video content. YouTube storytellers. TED Talks with personal narratives and documentary series provide visual context that supports comprehension. Interactive apps. Look for language learning apps that use story-based progression rather than isolated exercises. Online communities. Join forums where learners discuss books, movies, and stories in English. This provides motivation and speaking practice opportunities. Beginner level, use picture books and short stories designed for language. Learners, focus on present tense narratives about daily life practice, basic storytelling. Yesterday I, or every day I. Intermediate level, graduate to young adult. Novels and simple classics. Explore different tenses through stories about past experiences and future. Plans practice giving opinions and making predictions. About story outcomes. Advanced level tackle contemporary literature. And complex narratives analyze. Literary devices and cultural references. Create sophisticated discussions about themes, symbolism, and social issues. One of the most powerful aspects of story-based learning is its social potential. Stories are meant to be shared. Here's how to build a supportive learning community. Start a book club, even if it's just you and one friend. Discussing stories in English provides regular speaking practice and motivation. Online discussion groups. Participate in forums dedicated to English learners who use story-based methods. Share your favorite stories and discuss challenging passages. Storytelling events. Look for local storytelling nights or open mic events. Even if you're nervous, listening to others tell stories will improve your understanding of natural English rhythm and flow. Peer teaching. Explain stories you've read to friends or family members. Teaching forces you to organize your thoughts and use the language actively. Traditional language learning often feels like work because it is work, tedious, repetitive work that doesn't connect to your interests or goals. Story-based learning transforms language acquisition into entertainment. When you're eager to find out what happens next in a story, you're not thinking about studying. You're thinking about the characters, the plot, the emotions, but your brain is still processing complex grammar, absorbing new vocabulary, and developing linguistic intuition. This is what psychologists call flow state, when you're so engaged in an activity that you lose track of time and self-consciousness. Flow state is the optimal condition for learning, because your brain is focused but relaxed, open to new information but not stressed about performance. Variety is key. Don't stick to one type of story or one author. Expose yourself to different writing styles, cultural perspectives, and vocabulary domains. Quality over quantity. It's better to deeply engage with one story per week than to superficially read 5 stories. Deep engagement builds lasting neural pathways. Regular review. Revisit favorite stories after several months. You'll be amazed at how much more you understand and how naturally the language flows. Progressive challenge. Gradually increase the complexity of stories you choose. This ensures continuous growth without overwhelming yourself. Personal connection. Always choose stories that genuinely interest you. Your natural curiosity is your strongest learning tool. Let me share some real transformations I've witnessed. Miguel from Mexico studied English for 5 years using traditional methods. Could pass grammar tests but couldn't hold a conversation. After 6 months of story-based learning, he was confidently discussing philosophy and literature with native speakers. Yuki from Japan, extremely shy about speaking English due to perfectionist tendencies. Stories gave her something meaningful to talk about, reducing her anxiety. Within 3 months, she was leading book club discussions. Ahmed from Egypt, brilliant engineer who struggled with English presentations at work. Story-based learning taught him natural speech patterns and helped him structure presentations like compelling narratives. His confidence and effectiveness improved dramatically. These aren't exceptional cases. They're typical results when learners align their study methods with how the brain naturally acquires language. The most important thing I can tell you is this: start today. Don't wait until you have the perfect plan or the ideal resources. Choose one story that interests you and begin the 3-pass method I described earlier. Remember, every native speaker started as a baby who understood zero English. They became fluent through constant exposure to meaningful language in context. You have the same capacity they had. You just need to use it the right way. Your English journey isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming the best version of yourself, with the ability to express your thoughts, feelings, and ideas in another language. Stories will help you discover not just new words and grammar patterns, but new aspects of your own personality and perspective. As we come to the end of today's lesson, I want you to imagine something. Imagine yourself 6 months from now. You're at a coffee shop, just like Lisa in our earlier story. A tourist approaches you, looking confused and holding a map. They ask for directions in English, but this time something different happens. You don't panic. You don't search for words. The English flows naturally from your mouth. You give clear directions, maybe even recommend a good restaurant nearby. The tourist smiles, thanks you warmly, and walks away, confident they'll find their destination. That moment of natural communication, that's fluency. It's not about perfect grammar or a flawless accent. It's about connection, understanding, and the confidence to express yourself authentically. This is what story-based learning can give you. Not just knowledge about English, but the ability to live in English, to think in English, to dream in English. The traditional methods failed you because they treated language like a math equation to solve rather than a skill to develop. But language isn't a problem to solve. It's a tool for sharing human experiences, emotions, and ideas. Stories are the bridge between where you are now and where you want to be. They transform English from a subject you study into a medium you experience. They change you from a student of English into a user of English. Your fluency journey starts with your next story. Choose wisely, engage deeply, and trust the process. Your future fluent self is waiting for you to begin. Thank you for joining me on the Fluent Storybook today. Remember to subscribe for more revolutionary approaches to language learning, and I'll see you in the next episode where we'll dive deep into choosing the perfect stories for your learning level. Until then, keep reading, keep speaking, and keep growing. Your English adventure has only just begun.